Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Reeby, Principal of Vanderveer Elementary School.
And I'm Dr. Tian, Superintendent of Schools.
We are so excited to welcome everyone to our Vanderveer Evening Learning Academy.
You are all in for weeks and weeks of enjoyment.
You will be learning alongside your very own Vanderveer teachers.
Also, we have teachers and administrators from across the district that will be bringing you fun learning experiences.
You will become scientists, engineers, mathematicians, writers, world explorers, and learn to communicate in different languages as you explore concepts in math, reading, writing, science, social studies, world language, and so many more.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we encourage you to visit often and view other lessons in our learning library as we add to the videos each week. Enjoy.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our math lesson tonight. My name is Dr. Tian, and we will be learning about fractions, decimals, percents, and ratios. Now, normally in math, we learn about each one of these concepts by itself, individually, one at a time. Well, tonight I'm going to show you how they all can be connected and how all four of these are actually the same thing, just looking at it from a different perspective. Now, I also have on my M&Ms tie because we're going to learn about these concepts using M&Ms along with other chocolate. And then we're going to use some visuals and all of that so you have a clear understanding of what each one of these items are. So let's get started. The reason why I chose M&Ms is because not only are they one of my favorite candies, right behind ice cream, but because they have different colors. And so it's easy to visually see the numbers that we're going to be talking about and seeing how you can move them around in different groupings so that the concepts become easier to understand. I'll also use Hershey bar. This one will be an almond Hershey bar because if you think about chocolate bars, they're normally broken up into all of the different quadrants. So there's usually, on the bar I'll be using, there'll be 12, I believe. So let's start off with fractions. So what exactly is a fraction? When we think about fractions, it means a part. It means when you look at something that you have that's a whole, so for example, I have this whole M&M's bag, or I have this whole M&M's bag. Each one of these is the whole. If I take some of them out, that's the fraction. So that's the part that I'm pulling out of the whole to look at. So we're going to talk about fractions today, and I'm going to show you some examples of what a fraction looks like when you write it. Okay, so now we're going to look at some fractions. When I go to the store, sometimes I will buy the large size of M&Ms like I showed you before, and sometimes I buy the smaller size, like the fun size. So when you open up the fun size, sometimes you don't get that many M&Ms in it. So I'm going to show you, not that this is how few it would have in it, but let's say this is what was in the package of M&Ms. If you look at this, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 M&Ms in this package. Out of them, we have 1 that's blue and 3 that are green. So if we were to look at this as a fraction, the blue would be 1/4 of the package. Now, why do I say 1/4? Because I have 1 blue M&M out of a package that holds a total of 4 M&Ms altogether. I could look at this same group of M&Ms and I could pull out the green ones and say, how many green M&Ms do I have in this package? Well, I have 3 out of the 4 M&Ms in this package. This fraction would be 3/4.
1/4, or 1/4, also can be called 1/4, that is written like this. The 1 represents the part of the whole. It is called the numerator. The 4 represents the whole, or how many total parts make up one whole. That number is called the denominator. This picture shows how the orange piece of the pie is in the 1 part, and the whole, which consists of the 4 different pieces of the pie, that is the whole. In this next visual, a whole candy bar, as seen on the right, is made up of 4 chocolate pieces. That is the whole, or the denominator number, in the fraction. The single piece of chocolate in the upper left-hand corner, that is the part of the whole, or the numerator. The chocolate bar example fraction would be written as the 1 over 4, or 1/4. In looking at these same 2 examples, from the pieces of the pie chart and the pieces of the chocolate bar, we can look at the other 3 pieces that we didn't use. In the pie chart, the 3 green parts are now the numerator, or parts, and the whole pie hasn't changed. That remains 4. This makes the fraction 3 over 4, or 3/4. The same is true for the chocolate bar. The 3 pieces of chocolate of the 4 total pieces of chocolate in the package can be written as 3/4.
Now that we have a pretty good idea of fractions, and we know that the top number of the fraction is the part, and the bottom number of the fraction is the whole, or the complete package, it's all the items that are contained within it, we're going to now look at how do we change that fraction into a decimal.
Right now, you may be saying, "Say what?" Well, let me tell you, you can do this. It is easy. Let's go back to our original 1/4 fraction. You have several choices available to you. You can either visualize the M&M example, where I showed you the 1 blue M&M out of the package of 4 total M&Ms, or you can visualize the 1 orange piece of pie out of the whole pie of 4 pieces, or you can visualize the 1 piece of chocolate out of the whole chocolate bar that had 4 pieces of chocolate in it. Either way, we are going to go through the steps of converting that 1/4 fraction into a decimal. Let's get started and have some fun. Before we jump in, if I were a builder, I wouldn't start until I had all my tools. So, if you need a multiplication chart, go get yours now. I'm going to put one more tool in your tool bag, and this will be for the 9 times tables. So, you might know other ones where you can hold up your hands and put down your fingers, but here's another quick one that you can do at any point. All you need to do is start to write the numbers 0 through 9 on a piece of paper. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you write it again. So I wrote it this time going straight down. Now I'm going to write 0 through 9 again, this time starting at the bottom and going up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you think about this, these numbers, if you look at them, they would be equal to, that's times 1. That's times 2. So this is 9 times 3, 9 times 4, 9 times 5, 9 times 6, 9 times 7, 9 times 8, 9 times 9, and 9 times 10. So you can use that as a quick reference chart at any point. So you can jot that down on any piece of paper that you have before you start, and there you have your 9 times tables. Now going back to our 1/4 fraction, I like to think of fractions as houses, and when I am converting the fraction to a decimal, I think of the wind blowing like in the wolf in the story of the three little pigs and blows the house down. Well, with that, I'm going to do the same thing with this fraction. With my 1/4 fraction, the wind will blow and knock my fraction over on its side. When it falls over, we put the top number, the numerator, inside the house. The house is called a division bracket. After creating your division problem, you need to add a decimal point after the 1. Every single number can have a decimal point after it. What this really means is that all the numbers to the left of the decimal point represent the whole numbers, and all the numbers to the right of the decimal point represent a value less than a whole number, or less than 1. So we can add as many zeros as we want to the right of the decimal point because it doesn't change the value. So for example, if I am 9 years old, that is the same as saying I am 9 decimal point or 0.0 years old. And that's the same as saying I'm 9.00 years old. It never changes the value. Next, I am going to add a decimal point on the division bar directly above the decimal point below it. Now I start to divide. I don't know about you, but I have always viewed division as much scarier than multiplication. The reality is, though, that it is no different than multiplication. In fact, I use multiplication to solve division problems. So I'm going to show you how I first start by covering all the numbers except the first one, in this case it's a 1, and I ask myself a multiplication question. I'm going to ask myself 4 times what will be equal to or be close to without going over the number 1. The answer is that 4 times 1 is 4, so that is too high. Therefore, I move my hand over and uncover one more number. So now I see 10 inside my house, and I ask myself 4 times what will be equal to or be close to without going over 10. I know 4 times 1 is 4. I know that 4 times 2 is 8. And 4 times 3 is 12. So 4 times 3 is 12 is too high. So that means 4 times 8 would be the right answer. So as I said, the best answer is 4 times 2 equals 8. So I'm going to put the 2 above the house and above the last number that I used inside the house, which is 0. Since 2 times 4, or I could even switch it and say 4 times 2, equals 8, I'm going to put the 8 below the 10. I do this because I am setting up a subtraction problem. I can now move my hand out of the way. I then subtract the 8 from the 10, and I am going to be left with 2. Next, I bring down the next 0 in the house. I bring that 0 down next to the remainder of 2, which makes the 2 a 20. I ask myself, 4 times what will equal to or be close to, without going over, 20? I know that 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 times 5 is 20. Since 4 times 5, or 5 times 4, equals 20, you put the 20 below the original 20 and subtract the two numbers. 20 minus 20 equals 0. So I am finished with this division problem. So my conversion of the fraction 1/4 or 1/4 to a decimal is 0.25. So 1/4 equals 0.25.
You guys are doing an awesome job. So far, we've learned that fractions are written with a 1 number on the top, a second number underneath it. The top number is the part, the bottom number is the whole, or the complete package. We've learned that in order to convert a fraction into a decimal, you simply just divide. You're flipping over the fraction and dividing the bottom number into the top number. Now we're going to take that decimal and change it into a percent. And you're going to see how easy it really is.
Now the easy part. We are going to convert our decimal into a percent. For the percent sign, think of it as the number 100. It's just written a different way. The slash is the 1, and the 2 dots represent zeros. If you put them together in a different order, you get the number 100. So think of percent as 100. Convert a decimal number into a percent, you are going to be multiplying the decimal number by 100. So let's look at what we've had in our previous problem. And we had 0.25. That's our decimal number. If you remember, we started at 1/4. That got converted to 0.25. In order to change this decimal number into a percent, you're going to multiply it by 100. Where did I get the 100 from? If you remember what I said before, here's my percent. And that's the same thing as saying 100. So how does that help me? Well, there's an easy way to do this conversion. If you look at the 100, how many zeros do you have? You have 2. Right there and right there. The number of zeros in the 100 tell you how many positions you are going to move the decimal point to the right. Why to the right? Because we have a multiplication sign there. So when you see multiplication, multiplication means decimal point to the right. So I'm going to take my decimal point and move it 2 positions to the right. There's 1. There's 2. So what does that equal? Well, that's going to equal 25, because my decimal point technically is after the 5. And I'm simply then going to add on the percent sign. That's all there is to it when you're converting a decimal number to a percent. For ratios, you can do 2 different types of comparisons. The first type is part to part. The second type is part to whole. When working with fractions, you are comparing part to whole.
The lesson that we're going to learn tonight is about ratios. Ratios is comparing one item to another. So if we look at this bag of M&Ms, we have a ratio of 1 red M&M to 1 orange, or 1 blue M&M to 1 yellow M&M, or 4 whole M&Ms to 1 broken M&M. So you can use anything to compare. So I'm just using that for now. I could use 1 Hershey chocolate piece to 2 blue M&Ms. That would be a 1 to 2 ratio.
In our first example, we had 1 blue M&M out of a total of 4 M&Ms in our package. Therefore, that would be a 1 to 4 ratio. 1 blue M&M to a total of 4 M&Ms. That ratio comparison is written as 1 with the colon sign, 4, or 1 with the word TO in between, and then the number 4. The word TO can replace the colon sign when doing ratios.
We have learned so much tonight. We've learned about fractions. We've learned about taking those fractions and converting them into a decimal. We've learned about taking decimals and making them into percents. and we've learned about ratios. These are all pretty complicated concepts, but we've shown how you can tie one into the other, and they're all the same. So it makes these harder concepts into something pretty easy to understand. We've also found that these things are all around us. Whether we're looking for fractions, we're going to find examples of fractions in recipes or in measurements when we're doing like a construction project. We know that decimals are all around us when it comes to money. And we know that percents are all around us. Like if you go to the store and you find that something is 35% off, that's a percent. In your mind, you can now convert everything back and forth from one to the other.
Now you are going to try some problems on your own. After you are shown the problem, pause the video to give you time to solve for the answer. When you're solving, take that fraction and convert it into a decimal. Then take the decimal and convert it into a percent. Take the original fraction and make that into a ratio. The answer to each problem will follow. You just had was 2 over 5. So if the house falls over, you'd be left with 5 with the 2 on the inside. I would add a decimal point and add a 0. I would say to myself, covering my 0, 5 times what would give me 2? Nothing. So then I go to the 20 and I say 5 times what would give me 20? Equal to or greater than, equal to or just less than, and that would be 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. I subtract that, I get 0. I'm actually finished. This is different than the problem that I originally gave you with the 1/4 fraction. So this one's different, but what you'll do is you put down the 0.4, because that's your answer, and we know that if we want to convert this to a percent, we know we're going to multiply it by 100. And there's 2 zeros, which means my decimal point has to move 2 to my right. 1, 2. Well, there's nothing in that blank space there. So I can actually just put in a 0. Remember, you can fill up anything and it doesn't change it. So I'm going to do that. And that's going to equal 40%. If I want to write this 2/5 as a ratio of part to whole, it would be 2:5 or 2:5 ratio. Here's a challenge problem for you. So listen to this explanation and then write your fractions, and there will be 2 of them. Then convert the fractions into a decimal. So each fraction that you come up with, convert it to a decimal. Next, change a decimal to a percent. Lastly, change the fraction that you started out with in the beginning, change that into a ratio, comparing part to whole.
So not everything is about M&Ms. And here we have a Hershey chocolate bar. This one actually has almonds in it, if you need the details. And so as you can see, a Hershey's chocolate bar is actually split up into small little squares. And this one is the giant size. So it's more to enjoy. So if you look at this one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I was wrong before when I said 12. This one's actually 16 little bars. So this whole would be 16. If I were to break a part of it off, if I could break it well, I would break off a portion of it. And let's say I just broke off, and let's pretend for a second that the portion I broke off was actually still together much better than it is. I broke off 4 of the sections of the whole 16. So this fraction would be 4/16. If I just broke off one piece, like this one, that 1 would be 1 of the 16. So that would be 1/16. So you can find fractions all around you in the food that you're eating, or really anywhere. And we're going to go through some more examples of some fractions that are all around you.